Okay, y'all, I am back. This is Louisiana the Angel of Louisiana, which means the blue gold revelation of Louisiana. And Louisiana means the wizards of the temples of heaven. Okay, so if you listened to my last video, it was kind of an introduction or, just a little letting you know some of the things that I'm going to be talking about that's relative to Louisiana, especially around New Orleans. And I was talking about how a lot of people come here and they feel like they immediately feel like a mystery to New Orleans. Some people say New Orleans is not a real place. Some people say New Orleans is a portal. Some people say it's creepy. Some people love it. It just feels magical. It's mysterious. Religious people say it's a evil spirit hanging over the city. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of spiritual and energetic expressions of what people get from visiting New Orleans. Now, what I was saying is New Orleans has it is have connected to a portal, and New Orleans has like a shield, an energetic shield around it. And in the last video, I went to explaining why and how that shield came about during the time when the tribes was being invaded by colonizers. But anyway, New Orleans is this place of magic and mystery. It's one of the oldest places of magic and mystery, and it is cloaked with a gate or like a invisible wall surrounding a shield surrounding it. So some people that come here come through portals. Some people come here come through avatars into a version of New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody is actually allowed into the space where the actual people of New Orleans are. Sometimes you might get a version of that. I think I mentioned that before when I was in this group in 2017. I think, I was saying people don't know that sometimes you're doing like a spiritual um spying and stuff like that on certain bloodlines, like you really not getting what you think you getting a version of it, you know what I'm saying? Because some people is really protected. So one of the things about New Orleans is that a lot of the people in New Orleans via lineage is protected. And so even the people in that lineage, those lineages who are outside of New Orleans has a degree of protection. Now, this is not about making one people more important or special than any other of the people. We all in America, the indigenous Americans, aka Black Americans, we're all special in the same way, but we have different our lineages have different purposes and benefits and stuff like that. And so, one of the things that was able to keep a certain area of Louisiana, specifically around New Orleans, shielded, one of the things that was able to keep us shielded is because during the time when the invaders was trying to alter and mess with the tribes, they needed to have a space to specifically make sure a certain section of the tribes was untouched. You know what I'm saying? Touch not my anointed type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And that was because these specific tribes were linked to the strongest point of the mother's magic. These were the tribes that was the closest to the connection to the great mother's altar. And so they needed to preserve and protect and shield these particular tribes to because they knew that one day it was going to come that they was going to need to do some type of powerful magic or rituals to return the people back, to bring the other tribes back home, so to speak. So they needed the most powerful in a certain way. And it just so happens that Louisiana tribes, along with some of the Mississippi tribes, um, were they were the ones that carried that strongest point because they were specifically in the magic of the sound. And we as an American people are people of sound. Our sound is our strongest point. Our sound is our power. Our sound can be our peace. A sound can bring peace to others, and then it can also delete others. You know what I'm saying? That's how powerful. And that's why a lot of people tend to look toward Black America, so-called Black Americans, to be the hero and the savior for everybody of that because of that thing that we have in America. All the tribes we have that, but the most um the strongest point of the tribes is our sound. And by the area in Louisiana, certain areas that shielded off in Louisiana being shielded off, we was able to hold on to a lot more of the magic without it getting affected by the colonizers and stuff more than some of the other tribes. So as I said in the last video, that's mostly around the New Orleans area. Okay, so I don't want to keep repeating that. So you can go check out the other video, the last video I did, and that will, give you a little better understanding of what I'm talking about. So, like I said, New Orleans is a shielded, cloaked place full of magic, full of mystery. And even though I grew up here and my mom was born here, like I'm a generational Louisiana person. I was born in New Orleans, raised in my mama was too, my daddy was too. So I always knew it was spiritual. I always knew it was magical, stuff like that. I just didn't really understand how deep it was until, I became enlightened. And even in the beginning of my enlightenment, I didn't really understand how deep it gets. And until I had, like I told you in the last video, I had this encounter with my ancestors from the mounds who kind of started breaking down stuff for me. So anyway, if I were to try to best describe what New Orleans is using the tree of life on the Kabbalah, I could tell you exactly the point on the tree of life that New Orleans is with no thought. So this area is called Dat, Daat, or some people pronounce it Dayat, some people pronounce it Dot, some people pronounce it Dat. Being from New Orleans is that, because that's how we talk, like that. Okay, so in ancient times, and this is where I'm about to tell y'all gonna say I'm crazy. I don't care. In ancient times, now remember, nothing is new under the sun. In ancient times, one of the most powerful rituals that our ancestors used, I'm talking about ancient times, was a ritual for the protection of the land and the people. And this ritual was called Where They At. WER and then DAAT, like on the tree of life. Where that, or where they at. Okay. So this is the reason why bounce music had to come back online. Bounce may seem like just a recent thing that came out like in the 80s and 90s, but bounce is actually a revisitation of an ancient sound, an ancient ritual, or ancient music. And so is rap, and that's why I say nobody cannot take the credit for so-called hip hop from America, because even though we already know it goes back in history, it even goes back way further than that. So the whole concept of rapping is connected to the American sound, which is the ancient American sound. So let me tell you like this. First of all, hip hop is hey bow. Okay, I forgot the term. I'm trying to remember how you pronounce it. But it's like, "Hey, Bow, you know what? Imma just type it in the video and let you read it." But basically, is centered around the sound of the river. So you can call it like a river music, an ancient river music, river ritual music. And so one form of it that was very ancient was what we now call bounce music. Now I'm talking more so along the lines of bounce that came out in the beginning of what we call the bounce era, meaning like when MCT Tucker and DJ Jimmy came out with Where They At, which everybody knows as the beginning of bounce. So, like I said, on a tree of life in the Kabbalah, the place of mystery and magic, the place of deep knowingness, inner knowingness, some of the things never heard of, a type of knowingness that's never been heard of, an unspoken type of consciousness is in the realm of that or that, like we were saying, New Orleans, that. And so that's where New Orleans is. And so when bounce music came online, it came as a result of um, two American tribes around the bayous. So in the beginning, the Gulf of Mexico is area. It's like around the rivers and the bayous around the Gulf of Mexico. That's where all the tribes were. This was before it spread out into all the states. So all the tribes was around the bayou areas, right? And so we had the Louisiana, Washita, which in Egyptian terms would be Waset, in Mayan terms would be Wasteka. So the mirror reflection would have been Wasteka on the other side of the Gulf. We were on both sides of the Gulf. Melanated, bronze, copper skinned people that's here in America were the people on both sides of the Gulf initially. Okay, so you had the tribe on the other side, the Zamnas, the Itzas, and you had the tribes on this side, which was the whose magic was the Cha, and the ones on the other side of the Gulf whose magic was the Za or Siza. So they knew because they dealt with the oracles, they had the priestesses, and so they knew that in the future we was going to need some type of protection because we was going to be too far gone in a like an amnesia or slumber of who we are as a people as a result of things like the slave trade stories and stuff like that. And so they had two tribes competing to be the one to initiate that awakening. And so one of the tribes, the from the Itza tribe, the Itza magic priest came and competed for that, and then the one from the the Choctaw side of the magic came and competed for that. And so the one on the Itza side was a Itzamna type of priest, and he was more so like a Chachuma. And then you had the one on the Choctaw side, the Chitimacha, I should say, the Chitimacha side, who was a Tutaka, who had more of the Egyptian bloodline, and the other one had more of the Mayan bloodline. Okay, and so they competed with both of their forms of magic sounds, or back in the day, ancient hip hop. Let's just say that ancient rap. And the one who was victorious in um who they felt like could best have successfully get this done was the one on the its side. Okay, so this became in our time DJ Jimmy. This in our time it was a battle, a competition between MCT Tucker, where they at, and then DJ Jimmy, where they at. And DJ Jimmy, who was on the Insomnia side in the ancient times, was the one who was able to get this message best across. So fast forward to the 80s and 90s, then you have DJ Jimmy comes out with Where They At. Now, Where they at in ancient times means the great dayat, the great dayat, the great dot. You know what I'm saying? DAAT. So that's the realm that I was talking about, the realm of magic and mystery and inner knowingness. So that's what that where they at sounds like, just a song of words. You know what I'm saying? For the bounce song, where they at, where they at, where they at. But for our subconscious, it was a awakening of an energy called where they at, meaning the great they at. And this was, like I say, it was a protection ritual for the land and the people. The where they at. Okay. The great they at. Okay. Now, DJ Jimmy, like I said, he was an Itzam the priest. But his name, DJ, is Jimmy Chama. 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 Okay. And Titaka was a Tutaka, which was Egyptian, more Egyptian. So Chichama was more Mayan, and um Titaka was more Egyptian, but they both had both. Now, when they came out with the way they at, when GJ Jimmy came out with the way they at, it was something that was affecting the people. It was helping build up some type of magic. It's like reinstalling magic energy into the people around New Orleans and across Louisiana, because the sound spread, throughout Louisiana. Now, these are things that's going to seem like it wasn't happening, but it's like I said, this is dealing with the unseen realm. So you wasn't going to see the magic, but it was going to be growing and building up for a certain time and purpose. So that's where the bounce started, with the where they at, the great day at. Now, where did Trigger Man come in play? So Trigger Man, yeah, this stuff is deep, and I don't even know if I could even explain it the right way. So Trigger Man had to be Trigger Man by the Showboys had to be the song to connect to the reawakening of the where they at energy, because infused in the song Trigger Man was some type of hidden sound that was connected to the trigeminal nerve that was responsible for relaying sensory information that was going to be brought into the bounce sound. Okay, so the bounce sound is like the Bayou nature sound. This the holy, the divine, the enchanted of the Bayou sound. So when Trigger Man, like I said, the Trigger Man was connected to the trigeminal nerve in the brain. Trigger Man is trigemina. That's what Trigger Man is. And so the guys connected to Trigger Man was the Showboys, who consisted of, I think the guy's name, I'm not reading it, so I hope I don't get it wrong. The guy's name was Orville. I think they say his name was Orville, and Orville just means the place of Horus, or horror, because Horus was Hor. So the place of Horus. So his name was Orville, and Bugs Can. Bugs Can is just saying, Bugs is a bucka or buckel, buck. That's why we have a lot of bucks in the South. We have a lot of people who have the nickname Buck and repeated in the lineages. That's buckel, the buckel gene. So we have buckel gene, can. Can is a serpent. The serpent on the Mayan side, the can. So Bugs can. And then you had Phil the Trigger Man, right? So the Trigger Man will be tree tree cook, or three cooks. So Trigger Man is basically when it came to the person, Phil the Trigger Man, we talking about Kukokin, right? And then Bugs Can would be the Buckel Gene Can. So I'm probably not explaining it right. I need to write this down and come back and do another video to better explain it. But the names is connected to what they are, right? Um, I forgot what the other guy's last name is. But anyway, so yeah, the show boys had to be able to bring the Trigger Man beat because something in the sound in the Trigger Man beat was gonna play the role of the trigeminal nerve going into relaying sensory information to DJ Jimmy, who brought out who awakened the where they at energy, right? So when DJ Jimmy came out with the where they at, where they at, where they at, you know what I'm saying? The thing is, people listen to New Orleans bounce music and they assume that that's some lame music, yeah, ain't none the beat might be a little fun and it might be good to dance to and shake to, whatever. And we watch the girls shake to it, you know what I'm saying? But they lyrics is ain't about nothing, and that's because it wasn't intended to be. It wasn't intended to be. Like I said, we are not a people of words. We the people of sound. That's why we the Choctaw, chatter, chit chat, Choctaw. We the sound um that created the words. We not the words. We the sound that created the words. So when um when bounce music was put into, I should say, reawakened into our people in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't intended to be some deep lyric music. It was intended to be a cloaked form of music used as a ritual to awaken. It was and they cloaked it so good that typical people would listen to it and say, "Oh, that's some vulgar lyrics. Oh, they all like cursing and it's just some nasty lyrics and stuff." But that was just to cloak it. It wasn't meant for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It was supposed to turn some people away, and some people were supposed to just hear it and get that signal. You know what I'm saying? And so if you notice, bounce music has like a repeated sound, so it's like more like a chant. And so certain words that were being said that's vulgar words were not subconsciously being received as a vulgar word, but as something that has the exact same sound as an ancient word. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, the best example that I can give in this situation when it comes to bounce and how the sound is relative to an ancient word in the ritual, DJ Jimmy came out with where they at, and of course he had to introduce the female version of that because you got to have the queen aspect of everything ancient. There's nothing without the queen or the woman or the goddess. So he introduced the female reply to where they at, which was a curse word filled vulgar song called The Bitches Reply. So in the bitches reply, you're gonna have the female come into the song saying, all right, 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 because I'm the bitchy, the bitchy. Then she gonna be saying some other stuff after that that's gonna be kind of vulgar. And I'm telling you, and I'm gonna try to break the whole thing down, the parts of the song that's relevant, because not the whole song is not relevant to certain words that's supposed to be connected to the ritual. It's only certain phrases. And empathically, I know which phrases, but I just have to figure out how to translate it, right? So she's gonna say, um, I'm the bitchy. When she says I'm the bitchy, she's saying or awakening the goddess Tabichet, which is an Egyptian a goddess named Tabichet. Tabiche. Tabiche. And then she's gonna awaken another goddess because, like I say, in Louisiana is Egyptian and Mayan, and so is Mississippi. The Choctaw is an Egyptian Mayan fused language. So she's gonna start off with the Egyptian goddess, the bitchy bitchy, ta bitchy bitchy, and then she's gonna go into something that sounds vulgar to the ears, but it's not vulgar in intention. So the next line is gonna be, and it's gonna sound crazy. Suck my pussy for a pork chop. I say, suck my pussy for a pork chop. So I know that sounds nasty, y'all. I know that sounds nasty. But the ancient translation of what she's saying, she's speaking about an ancient Mayan priestess who was a healer. And one of the ways that she healed was through okay, let me see. Y'all probably heard of the Het Heru priestesses where they was like sacred whores. You can call them sacred whores. These are women who was very in tune, very spiritual. They were priestesses, they was oracles, and they was so powerful that their power was in their bodily fluid, basically. So this particular priestess was known to heal through her through many ways. She had many ways to heal, and one of them included her bodily fluid, right? And so if she can get intimate with someone, she could actually heal them through her bodily fluids. And so her name was Lady Sokma. Lady Shokma. Some people say Shokma, and some people say Sokma. So after she invoked Tabichet on the Egyptian priestess side, she invoked the Mayan priestess Sokma, or Lady Sokma. So she was like, "Soak my pussy for a potion," and she was saying, "Soak my pussy for a potion." Potion, like I said, a healer. She was a healer. She made the remedies. She made the remedies. So she's saying, "Soak my." You call on soak my bodily, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to say it in a nasty way. So she's saying, return to the return to the yoni of a sukma, a divine oracle for the healing. You know what I'm saying? So soak my pussy for a potion. For a potion. Suck my pussy for a poke chop. So the song translated on the physical realm as something stupid. Suck my pussy for a pork chop. Because it sounds like soak my pussy for a potion. Okay, soak my. So yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but that's what it is. So this is the best example I can give of how it's the sound cloak the sound. Some of the craziest songs that we have in American music is cloaking the sound of an ancient language. We just got to learn how to tap into it without the industry being involved. And that requires us to sing more and dance more, but we got to stop being toxic while we doing it. Like we got to tap in and become deeper in our spiritual walk and our cleansing our energy and stuff, because we can actually utilize our sound, the singing, dancing, the movement, all of that will make us who we are as American people. We can use that as a weapon. We can use that to heal, literally, to heal our bodies, to heal our spirits, our minds, all of that. So we got to tap back into that. I need to go to a part 3 to finish this video. I hope y'all listening. I hope I ain't running y'all away. I'll be back.